So, the allegory of the cave is something that Plato wrote in response to, I believe that he wrote it in response to the way the Greek people were like viewing Socrates at the time. If you don't know Socrates' story, he basically was imprisoned and then executed for poisoning the minds of the Athenian youth.
Really?
So Plato wrote this story to sort of describe the people, and this is my little spin on it. So there is a community of people that live in a very dark cave, and they're chained up their whole lives on this wall.
In the cave?
In the cave.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so around them, they have all their friends. You know, they have all the food they could want, all the water they need. And whenever they get bored, they can just look in the center of the cave, and they'll see a puppet show to entertain them. And so they have everything that they could possibly need for their whole lives, right? Life's good.
Yeah.
And so one day, somebody's chains just become a little loose, and they slide down the wall of the cave onto the ground, and they try so hard to get back up. They're like clawing their way up. They can't do it. The wall's too steep. And so, with no other options, they decide they're going to just start wandering through the dark cave, right? And so they hit walls and they stub their toe, you know. They don't know their way around. They can't see anything. But eventually, they meander their way to the exit of the cave. And outside, you know, they see the beautiful blue sky, the green grass, the golden beaches, all that stuff. And then there's some mountains in the distance, these huge mountains. And before they head back into the cave to tell their friends or their community about what they had found, they meet somebody who looks exactly like them. And they are part of another community that puts on the puppet show.
Okay.
And so with this information, they go back into the cave, and they go to their community and they say, hey, you know, there's a lot more to this life, and there's all this cool stuff out here, and I can show you the way out of the cave, and we can explore this together, but the only caveat is you cannot return to this life. You can't go back up. And so some people with the idea of something different, something potentially better, you know, they decide to intentionally loosen their chains, and they slide down the wall. And another group, one person speaks up and says, hey, you know, that sounds cool, but I have all my friends around me. I have more than enough to eat, more than enough to drink, and life is pretty good here. Why would I want to change that and not be able to come back? And so some people agreed with that sentiment, and they stayed on the wall. And so with the two groups now formed, the one that was deciding to explore the new world left the cave, now knowing the way out a little bit better since they had gone through it, right? And then the other group stayed on the wall.
Okay.
So the thing that I said, stagnation is the antithesis of growth, is that, well, before I analyze the story, what do you think it's saying?
See, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm not sure. I think I know. I could take a stab at it.
Just take a stab at it.
If I heard it correctly. If I'm wrong, please let me know. So, for something better, okay, they go for it, but they can't go back to where they were. Correct? So they're wanting to go to something better. I wonder, is it really better, or is it just different? Okay, and I just feel like I've seen this done in my life and in others' life, and I'm talking about myself too. You know, I've left things. It doesn't matter if it's people or not. I've left things for something quote unquote better, which was really just different. And I missed out on what I had. I got what I quote unquote wanted, but I lost what I had. And a lot of the things like I told you, this is what this made me think of. A lot of the things that we want, we don't always need, and a lot of things that we need, we don't always want. And I'm just going to reiterate this small part just for for the podcast is like, I like saying this. Folks, when it's, I know I need that salad. Do I want that salad? No. I want that juicy burger, but do I need that juicy burger? No. That, because, I have, if I had like 12 burgers in like 4 days total, I mean, I need a salad. That's just me, because like I can, anyways. Long story short is a lot of things that we need we don't want. Mm-hmm. So it's like, continue though. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I think your analysis is good. The good thing about philosophy is there's really no right answer, but your answers sounded very good. What I kind of gather from that story is if we look at it from a perspective of growing, right? The people up on the wall are staying there, and they're experiencing only one thing their whole life, right? And they don't know what they don't know. The wall, to me, symbolizes a point of understanding. Okay. And once the chains are loosened, they can't get back up because they can never return to that point of understanding with what they now know. So the people who go and explore the cave, they can't go back up because it's impossible for them to put themselves back into that lifestyle again with the new knowledge they have. It will never be the same. There's new information that flavors the way that they view their life. And so the question is, like, if things are good and you don't want things to change, I think that's valid. But if you want to grow, because say there are unexpected challenges that come up for the people in the cave, that they would have been more equipped to deal with had they left the cave, then they're stuck and they don't know what to do. They're not equipped for it. And one thing I think that this, going back to more philosophy, Epictetus has the dichotomy of control, which suggests that we should really only be worried, and this is what I think it means.
What is dichotomy?
Dichotomy?
Yeah, what is that?
A dichotomy is like...
Oh, dichotomy.
A dichotomy is like two polar sides of something. So like yes or no.
Oh, okay.
So the dichotomy of control is like we have what we can control and we have what we can't control. And so in Stoicism, which is Epictetus, he says, at least I think he said, this is what he says to me, is that we should worry about the things that we can control and not worry about the things we can't control. But applying that to the idea of growth is that when you expand your sphere of influence, right? So what you can immediately control in your environment, you have greater control of your environment and you have more knowledge of the things around you. So that increases your dichotomy of control. And you cannot do that if you stay in one place.
Oh.
So one of the things, I think if we go to, of course I don't have any studies to reference, but one of the biggest things that causes people to age is when they stagnate. This is one of the reasons that seniors should be super active, either mentally or, physically, is the moment that they stop doing something, they're telling their bodies we're done. And so the body dies. The mind dies. The mind is a muscle. You have to exercise it to keep it going. And after the age of, I think it's 35 or something, your brain actually begins to shrink. And so if you don't keep up with your mental acuity, if you're not staying challenged and learning, expanding what you know, then stagnation will literally kill you.
Wow. That makes me think of like there isn't really growth in the there is not really growth in the comfort zone. Uncomfort brings growth. Interesting. That I needed to hear that.
So
definitely.
Here's the next part, is when we apply that to suffering. is it can help us change our perspective on suffering. So suffering, we would say, well, what would you say? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? How would you describe it?
I would say, depending on who you ask. So I it's like some could say it's a good thing, some can say it's a bad thing. So it's just like, what is it really? So I think it's like neutral. I would say it just doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. However, it can bring about good, and it can also bring about bad. So I would say it's neutral. I guess circumstantial based, pretty much, or just neutral depending on, whose perception, whose lens. So not really a solid definition.
I think that's a great definition. That's how I would see it. Is it's just a thing that happens to us, and yes, in the moment it feels terrible, and we don't want to be there, right?
Yeah,
but then
that's right.
After the suffering has occurred, we have the option to view that suffering in a certain way. And so it's not to say it was a good thing, but we can take good out of the bad. And so I would say suffering is a necessary component of the human condition, and that we should be able to suffer to some degree, because if we don't suffer, how do we know what the really high highs are compared to the really low lows? And how do we grow and expand our perception of the world and how to maneuver it?
That's true. That's true.
And so stagnation is the antithesis of growth, and suffering is growth. Because it pushes you, like that person who their chains were loosened, right? They suffered. They were removed from their way of life, and they were thrown into chaos, right? And so they were forced, where they otherwise would not have been, to make order of their environment. And so they learned and they grew because of the suffering. And then they no longer suffered, at least not as much. Right.
They developed skills and knowledge that wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for the pain or the suffering. Interesting. I do know that when it comes to like spiritual, I'm not saying religious, I mean just spirituality in general, that sometimes pain is necessary to cleanse something off of you. But I wonder if, and that is just what I heard from an individual who was on my podcast. I'm not saying this. I just think this is it's a really cool statement. I'm not saying that this is fact. I believe it for myself out of my own experiences. However, I wonder, when it comes to just growth in general as humans physically, is pain necessary? And by that I mean, like, when you start to grow, you can experience growing pains. Like your knees can start hurting, that's because you're growing. Or when you're working out a muscle, your muscles are breaking or tearing. And it's pain. Whether we feel it or not, it's some type of pain. And that is for growth. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I think we see that emulated in cultures. So, coming of age ceremonies. Let's look at Jewish culture. So, one part of that, and in many cultures, there have been characteristic ceremonies of growth for individuals. So, in females, that's like menstruation, right? They have to go through that pain and they bleed, right? But for males, that would be something like they would be ritualistically cut or something.
Circumcised.
Right, and that's the Jewish culture, right? You get circumcised, and then you have to go through all this training, and then you get baptized into the faith. And so through that pain, that's that growth. That's that removal of the one I once was into the person I am now.
Wow.
And that's something we see in many cultures.
Right. Damn. So pain, I don't know what we're going to title this, Alex.
I don't know.
But it's going to be something cool and poetic. This is what I'm going to do, y'all. Alex, he's going to be bonus episode. Hey, Zach.
That's nice in here.
Zach, you want to say hi to my podcasts? Everyone on the whole world is listening. All podcast platforms, literally. Say hi.
Hi.
Say it louder. I don't think they heard you.
Hello.
I'm just kidding. They definitely heard you. I was just being childish. But
No, thank you.
with that being said, folks, this has been a bonus episode of Vulnerability Time. Thank you so much for the support, for getting this podcast global. Thanks to y'all. Top 14%, top 14% most followed podcast in the world. Top 30% most shared globally in the world. Well, duh, that's what globally means. But thanks to y'all. And then a special shout out to the top 5 currently: the US, the UK, Brazil, Norway, and Canada. Thank y'all so much. Also, Czech Republic. Thank you. Thank you. And thank y'all all. Anyone else's name I didn't mention. I have terrible memory. I have a horrible memory, y'all. I gotta have things like written down. But according to the analytics, that was the top 5. And then Czech Republic was like the new. So, howdy to all of y'all. And I will look forward to seeing y'all next time. This podcast would not be anything without y'all. I thank God for y'all. Thank y'all to the special guests. This is not my podcast. This is our podcast. Love y'all. See y'all soon. I love you and I like you. And if no one has told you today that you are beautiful, loved, and that you are worthy, let me be the first. I'm glad you're here and you're important. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So I'm sure you have just loved that episode with Alex on the necessity of suffering. Wow. Okay, so folks, y'all know on this podcast, we love to see people win. We love to support people. So I actually want to introduce y'all to his brother and his band as well. We're just going to hear a little bit about them. We love to support on this podcast. I want y'all to be able to, check them out. If you like their music, there you go. So introduce y'all's selves.
Well, I'm Alex's brother. I'm Aiden. And this is my brother from another mother who I'm with.
Yes. I'm Casper. And the band that we're going to be talking to you about is called Opening Day. It's an experimental rock band from Indianapolis, Indiana. So what's your first inquiry?
Well, why and when did this band start? Why and when?
Why and when. Yeah. So the why is a little...
Casper said, Aiden,
strange.
Play for my songs.
Yeah, I was like, Aiden, play for my songs. And
so you write music?
Yeah, I write. I'm like the main sort of songwriter for the band. And yeah, I just kind of woke up one day and decided that I wanted to be a part of music. It was sort of a calling I felt I needed to do.
Yeah.
And therefore, which I think is how most of us really get thrust into this.
Yeah.
And I started actually playing drums, and that's how Aiden and I became friends, because he's, of course, my drummer.
Yeah, we were in... Casper was in the show choir at Noblesville. And then I was in the band.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, after I was getting more sort of into music, I decided that I felt like I needed to sort of be a part of the creative pool, if you will, for music. So I was over at my grandfather's house, actually, and he had an old 12-string up in his attic, got it down, and showed me.
So what's a 12-string? For those of us who don't know, I am of us.
Okay, so basically, like your standard guitar, right, has 6 strings on it. The 12-string, each, they're called choruses, and they're like pairs of strings. So there's 6 choruses, 6 pairs of strings on the 12-string. And each pair is like tuned in an octave, so it just gives the guitar a much broader sort of sound. It's a little chimey.
Broader range.
Yeah. So anyway, but they're a pain in the butt to play, especially if you're just like starting out. It requires a lot more finger strength and stuff. But I mean, it got my chops up fast.
Yeah.
So it ended up working out.
So, why rock? Why not indie? Why not?
See, that's
you know,
the funny thing is we can call it rock, right? But well, I mean, to start, like, I know when we started the whole opening day thing, we were both very big fans of kind of those rock styles. Like, he would talk my ear off about Led Zeppelin all the time, and I'd talk his ear off about prog rock bands like Yes and Genesis.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we
King
both
Crimson.
right, and we both got big into the Beatles, and so this first album, you're gonna hear sort of elements,
all
yeah.
of those influences, lots of prog influence, lots of actually a lot of indie folk influence.
Oh my
from
God!
my-
Yeah, I was
Right,
just about to
yeah.
say,
From
like, you have an indie folk
my
voice.
mentors,
Yeah.
my mentors actually are a local group as well that you should check out. Joshua Powell. You can find them, I think, everywhere at Joshua Powell Music. But they're fantastic people, fantastic songwriters, and they've just sort of been a big part of my musical upbringing. So you'll hear like a little bit of their influence in there.
Yeah. So in y'all's album that's coming out eventually, it's like, just to clarify, so there's going to be kind of like a diverse sound.
Yeah, and that's kind
Absolutely.
of the whole
That's
point.
great.
The whole point of the band is to be this sort of everything bagel
Right.
of
Yeah.
like
That's
we
awesome.
do kind of whatever we want whenever we want. Because over the years, our styles have also developed. Like I love blues and I love classical and I love bluegrass.
And I got like way big into funk.
Funk.
And what's kind of neat, a little behind the scenes trivia on the album, right? So the band officially got together in late 2019, right? October 2019.
it was like late 2019.
But then we didn't actually start recording any because pandemic happened, right? And so
Yeah.
we had a big lull in sort of stuff, and we actually kind of started to put the pieces back together when we started recording the album.
Right.
And so we recorded
That was like late 2021 we started.
right,
But
And-
it was sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was sort of the new kind of genesis of the band. So you're gonna hear on the album, you're gonna hear elements from those recording sessions in late 2020 and the songs that were written kind of before and around that time, and then
Oh,
you're gonna
okay.
hear
A couple newer songs that I just wrote a couple months ago.
right there.
So,
we had sessions throughout 2021, and then we had some
2022.
yeah in my basement. So
Yeah.
you're gonna hear a broad
Yeah.
variety of sound and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and style as well. It's gonna be a very sort of
And what's y'all's band called again?
Opening Day.
Opening Day.
Yep. And you can find us everywhere at Opening Day Official.
And where can we find your music?
Currently, if you look on Bandcamp, not many people have Bandcamp.
So
I
what
don't
is
think.
Bandcamp? Is that an app, a website?
It's an app. There's also a website, but it's it's basically an indie like DIY music streaming service
Okay.
sort of
And
deal.
where can we find that? On
Um,
Apple Store.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much everywhere.
also a website too.
Also the website as
Okay.
well.
Are
if
we
you
on
don't have
SoundCloud
something like
as
that.
well?
We might be on SoundCloud, but I need to.
It has been
I
a
need to fix
while.
the
Yeah.
account.
So what I'll do is, and folks, listening know that I do this. All that information to access y'all's music and a little bit more about y'all's Instagram, it'll be in the episode description below.
All right.
Yes.
Website?
And so the album is coming out, correct?
Yes. Currently, we're in a bit of a. All right. So I'm gonna give you guys a very quick, sort of like John Green style history lesson of the band. All right?
Oh, I
so
missed
2019, it was me, Aiden, and another vocalist in the band. 3-piece. We ended up getting a bassist for a single gig that we played that year, and then the band kind of broke up because of
A gig
pandemic.
I did not even play at, by the way. I had a different
break
Wait, no, yeah, you did.
at Healer.
No, not Healer. Oh wait, we played two
Yeah,
gigs that
yeah,
year.
we played two gigs.
two gigs that year.
No, with the bass player.
One is a 3-piece, and then one where we actually got a bass player.
Oh, right.
But Aiden wasn't there. So,
So
and then the band just totally fell apart, and I kept writing songs, hit everybody back up again once pandemic was starting to slow down a little bit in 2021. We got a new bass player, got everybody back together.
the new bass player is Aiden. I suppose we better introduce people.
Yeah, Aiden Holt is
Oh,
our
there's
bass-
two Aidens?
Yes,
in the
We
band?
two
run
Aidens.
our Aidens in stereo, as
Yes.
it were. But
Yes.
Aiden Holt is is can I swear? Is that cool?
Dude, it's
Aiden
fucking
Holt-
vulnerability time.
Okay, she is like the most badass frontman you could, or front woman, sorry, that you could
Yeah, get
ever
it right.
ask for. All right, she's got that
Crazy
cool
hair.
indie rocker hair.
She's got
for
crazy
one.
hair.
She's got. Look, you're gonna be
It's a
blown
vibe.
away. You're gonna be blown away by her vocals. Okay,
Oh,
you're
she's
gonna be
great.
blown away. She's got so much soul and power. She plays a Rickenbacker bass, which for all you bass players know is the best fucking bass ever. All right, so let's get that out of the way. And bro,
There are
it's just
children listening.
So many
Aiden.
people are gonna be so mad about what you
There are
just said.
children listening. How dare you?
Yeah,
How dare
but
you say fuck?
hey, I can say whatever the fuck I want, bro.
but now it's sort of the three of us, and then we've recently auditioned like a second guitar player and a keyboardist as well, and you'll hear more about them. Hopefully the next time that you hear about us. Anyway, but so the band kind of broke up, and then we got back together a little bit, started recording the album. We were recording, actually, I'm a student at Anderson University, so we were using their on-campus studio. But in 2021, it was still sort of post-pandemic era, so we were severely limited on studio time, and all of the techs like were never available. So recording wasn't really getting anywhere. And so we decided to set up like sort of a home studio deal. And then that's been what most of the album has been recorded with.
And fun fact, it is the studio that you are, that we are currently recording this in right now.
Yeah, that's true. This basement
Board
is our studio.
basement.
Yeah.
Studio spectacular.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that's been kind of the thing. And then 2021 we went on like sort of a mini tour of like Chicago area and Highland Park and then all around here. And then had sort of another lineup change and some crazy stuff. It's really, you know how it is. If any Chili Peppers fans will know, or Yes fans, or fans of
King
most
Crimson.
fans, will know that like band lineups are pretty fickle until you get yours sort of worked out. And I think we're at a point now where we're pretty set. The band's sounding currently better than we ever have before. So we're
Very exciting
re-recording.
stuff happening.
We're re-recording some of the tracks. So you'll have a little bit more of an updated sound on the album, because obviously we don't want to be touring with something that sounds totally different than what you would hear. But so once we're done with that process, it'll be ready to come out. Hopefully by definitely sometime this year.
Yeah, and you know, like I was telling y'all before, whenever the album is about to release, you let me know. I let the listeners know and have y'all
Sure.
Black on here to to tell us tell us about it. More.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
This
it
is-
was a crazy process. for sure.
Yeah, and I will say this: once y'all start to develop a bigger and bigger fan base, don't forget to also help someone else win.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't
Yeah.
forget.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've already been trying to make an effort to make as many friends and play as many shows
That's-
as many people as
Yeah,
we
because
can.
like how you were
Yeah.
telling me, like how there are a lot of other artists can just be like, oh, do it on your own. Do it on your own. It's just like give someone advice, help someone, win, get connections and networking.
I feel like from our experience anyways, the indie scene has been so welcoming.
I love
mean,
indie music. Oh, my
like
favorite.
to shout out, like when we were playing in the Chicago area, right, at Highland Park for this music festival, the Bitter Jester Music Festival.
Yes, you should
Shout
check it
outs
out.
to Nick and the great crew there.
Yeah.
We have met some of the most wonderful
Wonderful people.
indie musicians from Wisconsin, from Indiana, from
Michigan.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
Michigan, yeah. I mean, in Illinois, of course. Just like generally, we're all the whole indie musician scene. It's very much a labor of love, right? And so it's
that's
all about
beautiful.
just checking each other out. Even if you don't think, oh well, I'm not really a punk rocker, I'm not really a metal fan, but you you know, you hear
But you
these
make friends
people,
with these people. 'Cause
well, and
they're
you
just
see
playing
them
their hearts
play,
out. Yeah.
and you're engaged anyways,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
it's really a magical environment to be
Yeah.
in, and
Well,
that's the big win, right?
Yeah.
That's the main win.
And I think one of the other sort of magics of it is that nobody's concerned with being perfect or you know, like in the indie scene, it's very much like it's got this certain like roughness around the edges that just gives it an authenticity, and you can tell that like, okay, these people are doing this because they love it and it's the only thing they can do. You know, not because there's somebody telling them that they have to. Or, I mean, none of us are contracted. We're making literally dozens of dollars a year. Ooh, you know. So it's like,
dozens. That's hilarious.
yeah. If we get dozens, but it's like we're doing this because we love it, and it's all that we can do, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Because you end up appreciating different styles more. You end up appreciating all of music more just because of the people that you meet. You know,
that's beautiful. Well, folks, that has been opening day. I will put their Instagram in the episode description below, as well as, and y'all send me links of what's that music app that y'all are telling me about.
Bandcamp.
Oh, Bandcamp.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'll send you like a link to the website and stuff too.
And I'll just like copy and paste it so that people can just, you know, tap on it.
Yeah, no worries, y'all.
And alrighty, well, thank y'all for tuning in to this episode. I will see y'all next week with episode 4. I cannot think of... Episode 4 is great with Dr. Tabari. So that's amazing. So
I love it.
Be looking forward to Dr. Tabari next Friday. Also tune in to this week's episode coming out this Friday, episode 3 with Callie. We'll be talking about Can You Ever Find Love? And a couple other thingies. I can't think of it right now because I don't have it on me. But y'all know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Then again, I thank y'all for the support. And I want to do a special shout out to folks listening in the UK and the Czech Republic and Brazil. You know, I want to start doing that thing where I just randomly start shouting out countries that this is heard in. So thank y'all. Yes, alrighty. See y'all next episode.